Ready?
Yep.
All right. Welcome, everybody. This is our third HomeNE webinar, and we're excited to have you with us. I just want to tell you a little bit about the HomeNE program. It is a learning network that's geared towards housing in rural communities. Through the HomeNE network, we provide face-to-face and online opportunities to foster interaction, engagement, and skill building for local leaders and conveners. We modeled this program after a similar program in South Dakota, which you'll get to hear about today. HomeNE was established just late last year, and kicked off with the learning journey in December, followed by the monthly webinar calls that started in February. If you are on your computer, you can see the slide that shows the map of the state of Nebraska, and you can see the places. People that have called in on our webinars have kind of come from all across the state. South Central Economic Development District acts as the lead agent for this program right now. And each HomeNE event is intended to provide experiential learning, intended to empower each participant to immediately apply what they've learned. I hope you're ready to learn something of value from Mike Knudsen today, and welcome to the call. I'm going to turn it over now to Kayla Schnelly. Kayla has been willing to partner this with us as the facilitator. She was with the Rural Futures Institute, and she helps with the Community Catalyst program through Sherwood Foundation, and just started with Mission Matters as a consultant. Mission Matters is a not-for-profit in Omaha that serves other nonprofit entities, but she's a professional facilitator, and we are very grateful to have her.
Thank you, Sharon. All right, so let's do a little bit of check-ins. I know we've tested some people's audio already, but this is a chance for you to open up your own individual microphone as we start check-in process. We're going to be doing, our check-in is name, community, and occupation/role. And we're going to go ahead and start. I have a list, so we're going to start at the top of the list. And if you are here, open up your audio and introduce yourself. And then if you are not, we'll just keep skipping down the list to the next one. So I have Lori from Alma first.
Right. I'm Lori Tripe in City of Alma, and I'm the city clerk.
Awesome. Thanks, Lori. How about Cheryl from Arnold? Cheryl, are you with us? Okay, let's move to Sally from Bassett. I'm looking, I know we have a few people on the phone, so if you are muted right now and you hear me call your name, if you can unmute, that would be awesome. We're going to go ahead to see if Trisha is here from Blue Hill. Okay, I'm going to keep going. And how about Mike from Central City? I thought Mike was on with us already. Let's see if he's still there. Mike, can you hear me?
It might have been a different Mike.
Okay.
How about Miles from Central City?
All right. Hey, Miles. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay.
Economic Development Director, Central City.
Awesome. Welcome. How about Judy? Are you there, Judy Peterson? Okay. Let's go to Andrea from Grant. All right. How about Dale from Hastings?
Dale, Adams County Board of Supervisors.
Okay. Thanks, Dale. Kelsey, I know you said you were muted. Can you open up your mic and introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Kelsey Bergen. I'm with the Henderson Chamber of Commerce, but I am also acting as city clerk today. So if I get up and walk away, that's why.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Next, I have Sherry from Holdridge, and I think you're on there, right?
Yes, this is Sherry, and we are here, and everybody in the other office is looking at us, but it's Jennifer and I in my office, and I'll let Levi do his office.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. How about Paul from Kearney?
Yeah, this is Paul Bartlett. I am recently retired from USDA Rural Development and still love affordable housing, and I volunteer here with the Habitat for Humanity.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. I had somebody uses the chat box. Pat Powell, City of Stromberg. She checked in. And then how about Taryn from Lincoln? Or is David on the line from Lincoln?
It looks like Taryn responded
in the chat box.
Oh, she says, Taryn says, I'm here. I'm on a computer with no mic. I'm the Brownfields coordinator for the NDEQ. Okay, so welcome, Taryn. I'm glad that you're able to use that chat box. How about PJ from Overton? Or Sarah from Palmer?
Sarah from Palmer. I am the village clerk.
Welcome, Sarah. How about Dana from Ravenna?
Hi, I'm Dana Dennison. I'm the Ravenna Economic Development Director.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jay Hall from Red Cloud. How about Marla from Scottsbluff?
This is Marla Marks, and I work in the business programs, but I'm also the Community Economic Development Lead for USDA Rural Development for the state of Nebraska.
Welcome. Thank you.
And I also have in my office Christian Gunya, who is a loan assistant who is new to rural development.
Awesome. Welcome. Daniel, are you there from Scottsbluff? Okay. How about John from Stewart? I know we had John a little bit earlier. Okay. We'll maybe come back. Or John, if you're there, can you unmute your microphone? Okay. How about Jeff from Sutton?
I'm here. This is Jeff Wolfaker, City of Sutton, City Administrator, Economic Development Administrator //.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, did I miss anybody? Is there anybody else on the line who hasn't checked in?
Kayla, this is my Adam, South Central Economic Development District here in Holdridge.
Awesome. Welcome. Anybody else there? Okay. Wow, we have an awesome group today. I think we're going to dive right in here. Let's see. Francis, do you have the next slide for us? Okay, so our agenda for today. First, we are going to hear a presentation about the importance of networking, and I will introduce our speaker here in just a second. Then we will take a few minutes to hear from him and some questions that all of you may have. And then we will hear about the gathering, the upcoming gathering, and some highlights from that. And that'll also be a chance to ask some questions there. And then we'll do a final debrief and wrap up from there. So we should have you out of here in about an hour. All right. Francis, we have one more slide here. Okay, so it is my pleasure to introduce to you Mike Knudsen. Mike Knudsen is the Learning Network Orchestrator and Community Coach. Mike facilitates and orchestrates the Dakota Resource Learning Network. He also serves as a community coach for rural communities. He has spent 15 plus years working in rural community development. His commitment to rural communities began when he recognized his own behaviors, i.e. the lack of community involvement and buying locally, were contributing to the decline of his community. Since 2008, Mike has operated his own business, Max Strategies, working primarily as a facilitator and coach in the rural settings. Among his volunteer activities, Mike has served as the chairman and the board of the Glacial Lakes Tourism Dakota Wesleyan University Alumni Association and the Southeast South Dakota Tourism. Mike grew up outside of Hartford, South Dakota, and graduated from Dakota Wesleyan University. So, Mike, welcome.
Hey, great to be here. I think we need a shorter bio, though. I should have sent you something. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Well, it's so great to hear about you and your background, and I'm excited to be able to have this conversation with you today. I know you a little bit, but this is another chance to just learn about your great work you're doing. So would you mind sharing with us a little bit about the home address program?
Yeah, and if I could maybe before I even jump into there, so I would also lift up that I work a lot for Dakota Resources, which is a CDFI located in Renner, South Dakota. It's just north of Sioux Falls, and so they, lend to community groups and organizations on economic development projects across South Dakota. We also have a capacity building arm where we work with communities to help build their capacity so that they're ready to do things. And today I feel like I'm a little bit of a Nebraskan. I'm down in South Sioux City, Nebraska. I'm here for the Mid-States Economic Development, Community Development Conference. And so I'm glad to be here. It's great to see so many folks. Now, hey, I think I forgot the question after that. I just wanted to throw that out a little bit, though, that this thing that we're talking about is actually a program for Dakota Resources. So what were we talking about, Kayla?
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so I was hoping you could share with us a little bit more about the home address program.
Yeah. So we built the home address program as a way to help individual communities identify their housing problems and solve those housing problems. And so we'd, form a community leadership team. We'd host a community meeting. We'd identify those issues. We'd form teams. And then we as community coaches would help coach those teams to solve those housing problems. But while we were doing that, one of the things that we discovered is that the communities were really working in isolation. And so what would happen is there'd be a team in a community that was working on trying to build a new housing development. And we'd say, hey, you got to go talk to Lisa over in Redfield. She's already done one. And then also go talk to Trevor. He's done a new housing development too, and he's doing it differently. And, we were all doing many of the same things, but we weren't connecting to each other's across our state. And so we decided that we wanted to try to build a network of community leaders and help them really learn from each other. And I think that the other part of that, we say learn from each other, it's about really benefiting from the wisdom of the crowd. When we get together and are all looking at the same thing at the same time, we're just so much smarter together. So yeah, the network was formed, and we try to operate our network really in three ways. We try to connect people in three ways. And the first is that we have an online platform where we as the coaches are sharing some housing information, some success stories, some information and best practices, some of that stuff. But it's also a place for those community leaders to ask questions. And it's really an online community, and people are interacting with each other there. The second is that we host webinars and phone calls. We do at least 2 of those a month. They're interactive. We like to get people talking with each other. It's not one expert saying, here's all the answers. And then the other thing, we have gatherings. We host gatherings a year. And right now, they're not just about housing, but they're really trying to help those community leaders accomplish their goals and learn from each other. So I think that's what the Learning Network is. We get together in 3 different ways, and we're trying to learn from each other and take advantage of what each other knows.
Awesome. So Mike, what types of individuals come and are part of these gatherings, these learnings? Kind of what is the makeup of the group?
Yeah, so the base of the group is really economic development professionals and some city elected officials, but city administrators are there, people who are the responsibility towards economic development and housing, and also some community volunteers, some people who are on boards. And but it's a group of people who are really just interested in advocating for the future of their communities.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks. So I imagine as you were forming this network, there were a lot of different things that you learned or challenges that had come up through the conversations or things that you learned as you were starting this network. So would you be willing to share some of the challenges or opportunities that came about as this network was being formed?
Yeah. So I think one of the first things we learned is it's not as easy as it sounds to get together and learn from each other. We started pretty small. There was only 8 communities initially, and now we have over 30 communities actively participating in the network. I think that one of the other things that we learned along the way is that we had to be willing to risk that we don't know it all. Ask the questions and to be a little vulnerable in that work as well. And so those are things we've had to work hard at making people feel comfortable sharing information online and also in on phone calls. When we get together in our webinars, it's not always easy. So it takes time, and eventually people really come to enjoy it. So I guess those are a few of the things that we've learned.
Awesome. Did you find, especially with the economic development folks, did you find that there was kind of this hunger or this like really excited feeling around the sharing of these ideas as kind of ideas were put on the table? Did you find that people's reaction from that was really excited?
Yeah, well, we're all really excited to share our own success stories. And that's really, and we like to hear success stories too, which is awesome. And I think where we work hard is at trying to get underneath just the success and understand what's driving that success. And that's sometimes more difficult to understand and to share and learn around. But I think that's also very important. But that's where the excitement often is. It's excitement from seeing what other people are doing and thinking about the possibilities. And just as I was sharing, I think the other thing that people find is exciting is that they know they can count on other people in the network. And so when we talk about those 3 ways of people connecting in our network, they're calling each other all on an individual basis as well. And they know that they can trust other people, and they have people that they can call and really work together on things. So yeah, that's where the excitement comes in.
Yeah, I can imagine that that's really created an infrastructure for relationships to be built outside of kind of the formal parts of it. So that's really exciting. Mike, would you share some of the success stories that have come about as this network has emerged and is ongoing?
So success. I'm always maybe a little reluctant to claim the successes of projects. In many cases, I think that those projects would have happened with or without the network. But maybe what's happening, what I really do believe is happening, is that they're so much better. So that when you do a new housing development, it's got a much better chance of being successful. And maybe one little story of success I'd share is the community of Miller. Small town, 1,500, central South Dakota. The Economic Development Corp had been kicking around this idea we got to do something with housing for a number of years, and they were just always reluctant to do any real. They were unwilling to invest their own dollars in it. They were afraid of losing their dollars. But because of the network, the person in charge, she just finally took it and said, I'm going to develop a spec home for our community. She used our Governor's House program, and as she developed this first Governor's House for the Development Corp, she sold it before it was even completed. And, so she's building the second one now. And what helped her was she saw other people doing little things that are similar to that. And she then tapped into those other individuals as she was doing her project. So that would be one. I might also lift up that we've seen success coming from that learning journey. And I don't know if John from Stewart is on the call, but and also Miles, I know you're on the call, but what's emerged for us? And just a little side note, Sharon invited some folks from South Dakota to come down and participate with her first little learning journey, and we went to Central City and to Stewart. And what's emerged out of that is that we have a group of about 8 communities who are actively working to establish their own revolving loan fund for housing purposes. John's example in Stewart was just really eye-opening, that they could rehab over 100 homes in 20 years. And Miles has got a great thing going with this investment club. And they said, why can't we? And so we're hosting a revolving loan fund training for those folks tomorrow morning. And they're also doing other things on their own as a group. I say on their own, they're as the participants are responsible for contacting other people, for setting some things up. And that's not me as the coach doing the work, that's them just working together. So that was really exciting for us. And we look forward to seeing the outcome of what they learn. And some of them may not do a revolving loan fund. I hope some of them don't. The learning that we want to have along the way is to figure out, is this right for you, and what helps make this successful. So yeah, those are some successes. How's that?
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. So you talked a little bit about the learning journeys. I think they're also called learning gatherings. Is that correct? Or are they two separate?
Well,
and just tell me a little bit about that and kind of what your approach is to those.
Yeah, sure. So we started out hosting these gatherings, as we would call it, and you might think of them as a mini conference or maybe a mini training session. We do it for about a day and a half, and we pick out some topics such as training. We've had how to put together a pro forma. We've focused on how to what are the barriers for identifying and cleaning up dilapidated properties, and those types of processes, so different things. But it's really a mini conference or training. And a learning journey may be very similar, but what we've tried to do in that setting is to go to a specific community that's doing some good work, and we try to learn as much as we can from that community. And so the community leaders are all kind of converging in one place, and we hosted the event around what's going on in that place. So either way, both of those types of events can be merged and mixed and matched. I think that what's really important is that people are trying to see what's happening and work with each other.
Yeah, and as you're preparing for the learning journeys, the learning gatherings, or even just the online webinars that you're doing with this group, are those topics getting originated out of the network, or how do you know kind of what is the next edge of learning for them?
Yeah, we try to be really reactive to what people are saying they want. And we don't schedule the webinars, the whole year out. We try to be finding things that they're saying we want. And so just several months ago, two communities said, we want to learn more about developing the governor's houses. And so we just quickly put that together. I didn't say quickly, well, it was about 3 months out, 2.5 months out. But we invited two people who've developed it. One of them was Tammy from Miller, and another was a person outside of our network. We brought in a state official, and we called it Tips for Developing a Governor's House. And really, they, as developers, as nonprofit developers with the Development Corps, they shared what they thought were the important tips to being successful. And then we just hosted a conversation with everybody else to see what they were learning as well and harvested. So again, I think the answer to the question is really it's about being reactive, and people put out the question, say this is important, and people are posting those questions to Basecamp, and then we try to dive into those as we can.
Awesome. Mike, I want to open it up to the group for some questions. But before I do you have anything else that would be really important to share with this group, or any kind of last thoughts?
Yeah. I think one of those things that I think is important as we do this work is that we resist the urge to fall into two traps. And one of those is that we have a tendency when we go and hear from another community and we say, oh, we can't do that because there's something so different in that place. They may be too big for us, or they have too much money and we don't have that money. So we just can't see how we can take what their project is and what they've learned and implement it in ours. There's one challenge. And I think the other challenge is that we may also at times have the tendency to just try to download the project. And by that, I mean, we try to just replicate it. We just say, oh, that worked there, and we're so excited about it. We're going to do the exact same thing. If it worked there, it's going to work here. Maybe and maybe not. You have to dive in and really understand what makes sense for your community. So I would just offer that up as maybe some advice as you're trying to learn from each other to keep that framework in mind.
Okay, great. All right. I would love to open it up for questions. I do have one here in the chat box that I'm going to read. So, Mike, do you perform a follow-up survey in regards to those that participated in the learning journey?
Yeah, so we typically do. We're trying to get better at it, and we've also messed up with a lot of them by not being prepared and ready to do that. We've now gotten in the habit so that after every one of our webinars, we're asking what's happening, and I'm also reaching out to our participants, and we're having conversations, surveys, if you will, but in a one-to-one basis about what is it that's actually happening with them in the learning network, and what do they want more of. So yeah, I think that's a great forum for understanding what's working, what needs to be improved on, and I wish we were always as dedicated to that task as we need to be, but we're doing a lot better at it.
Great. Well, thank you for that question in the chat box. Does anybody else have questions for Mike today?
Actually, I do. Mike, if you could, this is Francis, if you could maybe briefly discuss, you know, the method that you handed out to us last time for how to approach these events. I know you kind of touched up on it, but I have a flyer here that I wanted to show everyone. But before I show it to them, I thought maybe you could give them a little background on how it's useful.
Yeah. Well, I think that what we often try to emphasize is that, you know, you get out of anything that you put into it. And if you're going on a learning journey, you're going to get more out of it if you invest some time on the front end preparing yourself. And so I think the document that you're referencing is just a list of some questions, a little template document that was originally put together by Otto Scharmer, who is an MIT professor, and he was working with businesses who were trying to learn from each other, and he's really trying to help them overcome those two challenges that I just described a bit ago with you can't see yourself in that project or you just try to replicate it. And so the first part is really about getting clear about what you want to learn on the front end before you actually go there. And so spend some time thinking about it. You'll be prepared and more ready to ask the critical question while you're there. And then during the visit, we often offer just a group of questions that you might consider asking while you're visiting somebody else. And it's really just a cheat sheet in case you may have better questions that emerge during it and they flow perfectly, but other times it's just not sure what to ask. And it's a great little cheat sheet that you can use to maybe get something else out of the process. And then the part that we always get too busy for is the reflection, right? To actually sit down, spend some time debriefing. It's about, just if you're with other people, it's about having a conversation with them and sharing that learning. So it's really that co-learning process. But you had to spend the time at it. And I think the point is that the more intentional you are about those experiences, the better they're going to be.
Great.
How's that?
Great.
Is that it? Do you have that document are you sharing that with people or?
Yeah, Mike, she's got it up on the screen. Especially, I'm really liking your debrief and reflection questions. Those are great.
Yeah, it's just and there's nothing magical about them, right? I mean, we can all do it, and it's just something to think about and pick and choose what makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can tell you're very intentional with what you're doing and very thoughtful about it. So Yeah, this is awesome. Other questions that you all have?
I had a question. I know Mike mentioned earlier that he's done several webinars, one of them being tips for developing a governor's house. Do you have like a resource library or a place, an archive where people could go view some of those past webinars?
Yeah, well, we do record the webinars, and we make them available to our network so that they can come back to it. And we do try to build not just the resources of those webinars, but there's incredible information out there on the web. And whenever we stumble across a document, and I'm thinking of one that was, I think Fannie Mae put it together several years ago, but it was about how to do housing development. And so we have that online network where people can go and actually, we call it our resource library, and they can go to that and look for it when the time is right. Because the challenge is all of this information only makes sense to you when you really are doing that activity. And so you just don't remember the details and the critical aspects until it's that point. So I assume you're recording. Do you record these webinars? Is that something that you're doing right now, Francis?
Yes, we are recording these webinars, and we're in the process of being able to upload them onto our website at sked.us.org. I'm also trying to send copies of them all to everybody who's registered. So if you enter your email address, which I'm pretty sure you're prompted to do upon registration, I'll send whatever documents we cover, a copy of the slideshow, as well as the webinar itself.
Yeah, and I'd throw out with that we try to track obviously how many people are on each webinar, and we may have a webinar and only 8 people are able to make it. If you're doing 2 webinars a month, people are too busy to be there all the time. But what we've discovered by just tracking this a little bit is that when we have only a small number, quite often we'll have 15 people watch it within the next week, but they're just accessing it when they can, when they get the time to do it. And so it's really helpful, I think, in that regard to do the recording.
Great. Any other questions for Mike?
Mike, this is Jeff from the city of Sutton. It kind of is a follow-up from the previous answer you gave as far as you'd mentioned a resource library. And of course, networking is very, very important, both locally and regionally and statewide. Yeah. In regards to all the information you've collected, both positive and negative, of course, focusing on the positive, as far as how to address and housing issues and moving things forward, is this resource library of your successes and information on how you got there, is that on your website? Or are you trying to put something together on that? Yeah. Did I just miss that? Or
no. So we operate a closed network. The people who are participants are paying $1,200 a year to join our network right now. And so they want it closed. And that's what they indicated, that they wanted to be this group of people who they know and they can trust. And so all of the information that we are sharing and putting together is really behind the scenes, behind in the platform for them. And so it's not out there publicly, although there's hints, pieces of things that may be out there too occasionally. So that's the way this network is operating. Yeah. Does that answer the question then?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
That is something that we'll be looking at as we go forward. NYFA has developed the website livene.org, and that can be used to put up success stories and different things like that. We haven't really gotten into that, but I would welcome input, partnerships. If you have a success story you want to share, they actually have a form on there that you can fill out, and they'll put it up on the website. And so that's something we hope to develop further as we move along, and we would certainly welcome participation from all of you.
Awesome. Any other questions for Mike? Okay. I am going to turn it back over to Sharon, and I think she has some highlights of the tour, the upcoming tour, to share with all of you.
All right. Mike Feakin hasn't joined us by chance, have you, Mike? No.
Of course I have.
Oh, there you are. I couldn't see you anywhere.
I'm on the screen. My name is anyway.
I see it now, but I think it was just down far enough that I couldn't see it before. So yeah, next week our HomeNE gathering is in St. Paul, and we're excited to be there and let Mike show us around. One part of it will be Mike telling us about their projects and doing a tour. And Mike, can you just give us just a snapshot of what we might be seeing, just kind of whet our appetites?
Oh my gosh, you guys are going to be so excited to come to St. Paul and take a look at everything that we have to offer. We are going to see two different types of TIF projects for housing. We are going to possibly see the inside of the distillery that just opened. I know that a lot of people want to see that. I know I do. So we're going to take a look at a couple of other different fun projects that we did in the last few years regarding kind of a joint venture between our community development agency, a private daycare, and then our school. We did a project combining all of those efforts. We're going to go and take a look at the South Central Economic Development District house that they are building here as a pilot project. So that will be fun and exciting. Basically we can do whatever, if people have questions, we're just going to answer them. We're going to take you wherever you want to go, and hope to see you out here in St. Paul.
All right. Thank you so much. So just a little bit more about the gathering. It's a great opportunity to get to know others and that are involved in solving their housing issues in their own communities, to learn how to identify factors that influence housing solutions or the lack of solutions. What's behind that. Mike talked about needing to look at, I wrote down whatever he said. That they work hard, not just to look at the successes, but to see what's driving it. And so I think we'll have an opportunity to take a look at successes and struggles and what is behind that. Sometimes there's something more than face value. Again, we'll see firsthand the activity in St. Paul. We're going to enjoy a prime rib dinner followed by networking at, wait for it, Loop River Distilling. So we will be over there in the evening. And then on day 2, we'll hear from a panel of developers regarding what they seek in a project, the impact of community partnerships when they come to town, and the use of TIF. Those panelists will be AJ Dahlgren with Integrity Construction out of Axtell, Sean O'Connor with Thrive Construction from Grand Island, and Caitlin Jarabik, who has Beyond Blueprints in St. Paul. And I would guess that one of those developments that we're going to look at will be Caitlin's development. So I look forward to seeing you all in St. Paul. It is not too late to sign up.
There's golf in the morning too, so I know Mike Keizer's on the call today, and so he'll challenge anyone to beat him at the St. Paul golf course.
That's right. Optional golf in the morning, and then lunch at the golf course. And anyone, whether you're golfing or not, you can sign up for that lunch. And if you've already registered but didn't sign up and want to add that, just let us know. And then the actual event will start at the St. Paul, the brand new Civic Center. And Mike can, at some point during the gathering, tell us the story about how that came about too. But it's a beautiful facility, and I look forward to seeing you all there.
Wow, this looks exciting. I didn't realize there was a distillery opening, and I'm really excited to head up there and see it. So this looks like a great agenda. I'm going to open it up for questions and see if anybody has any questions for either Sharon or Mike. Okay, I don't see anything coming through on the chat box, or if you do have questions, you can definitely open up your microphone and ask them. But if not, I think Sharon, if you have anything else to add, do you have anything else to add?
Let me see. Francis, give me my directions. Was I supposed to add anything else here, or did I already cover
I
too
think you
much?
wanted to actually cover a little bit about the panelists that we were going to have because they.
I blew it. I already did it. So got ahead of myself. So yeah.
Okay.
We're excited. And honestly, the panelists are excited to come. I am working on trying to find an appraiser that might come talk to us. We have a couple other exercises that we will do, but there was a situation last week where I learned that just some issues with appraising, and so I've called about 4 different appraisers to interview them, and we're looking for one that I think would be a good one that's also available to come talk to us, and I hope we can get that in place. If not, I certainly have a lot of information from doing those interviews that we can share. I know that appraisals in small communities are they're a struggle, and I think there are some ways that we can put our heads together and figure out how to make that better. What else was I just thinking I was going to tell you about that? I don't know, lost it, but I'm excited for you all to come. I hope those of you that are on the call that haven't signed up can maybe get your calendars clear. And you saw the schedule before. It starts just after lunch next Wednesday and ends after lunch on Thursday.
Awesome. Thank you, Sharon. All right, so let's do a few minutes of checkout today. So if you don't have access to audio, you can go ahead and use the chat box. But our checkout question is something you heard today that was exciting to you, or a new nugget of information? So something that was exciting or a new nugget of information. And I'll start at the bottom of my screen, and if you can check in with audio, do that. Otherwise, you're welcome to use the chat box. So Taryn, would you mind kicking us off here? How about Miles? Okay.
I'm trying to do the double unmute here.
There you go.
Listening to Mike there, Sharon always preaches the double rob and duplicate there, and basically he kind of said, you can do it, but don't do it. Meaning, do it if it works for you, but don't do it just because it works.
Thank you for sharing. How about you, Levi?
Just one thing that I, not necessarily that was brought up here, but I really enjoyed seeing the South Dakota folks, and you could see that the relationships they had built amongst each other, and how they interacted and communicated. I think something in that vein would work and help our communities a lot.
Thank you for sharing. I have in the chat box, Taryn is excited about a resource library. How about Lori? Lori, are you still there? Can you open up your mic and share something that was exciting from conversation today, or a new nugget of information? How about Kelsey? Kelsey, are you still on?
I printed off this an identifying learning journeys sheet that was referenced at the end. And so we're starting to meet monthly as a community to talk about housing. And so I want to have that group work through some of these questions and focus some of their thoughts on some of the ideas here.
Wow, that's an awesome takeaway. Thank you.
Kayla, can you hear me now?
I can, yeah.
Great. Okay, I tried to say something before and apparently I had it on mute or something. Anyway, the resource thing about some document that says how to do a housing development, some document out there that kind of like steps you through it, that they have at this Dakota thing, whatever it was called, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Dakota resource?
Uh-huh.
If he had something like that, man, I wish he could share it.
Awesome, thank you.
Well, that's actually one of the topics that we're going to cover with our developers panel in St. Paul. One of the main things that they're going to discuss is what drew them to the communities as well, and what perks they saw about working in them. So it's a good opportunity to ask questions with them as well.
I would love to come, but I have something else going on next week on that night. So Otherwise, I was planning on coming.
So this is Mike. If I could just jump in and say I'll get this document and maybe send it to Sharon. And Sharon, please remind me if I don't get it. I'm not going to get home till Saturday, so when I'm traveling, I'm not as adept at remembering details. So would be happy. It's out there somewhere on the net. It's nothing unique.
Mike, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. How about John? John, are you still online? How about Jay Hall? If you're there, you can open up your microphone and share something exciting or a new nugget of information you took from today's conversation. All right. How about Dana?
I'm just excited. I'm going to be there in St. Paul next week, and I was excited about what Sharon said about the developers. We're trying to start a housing project, and we're using TIP as well, and just comparing with the other communities, seeing exactly what that gentleman Mike said is like what works in St. Paul or what works in Central City or any other community may or may not work for you, but taking bits and pieces and seeing what's the best fit for your community. And like I said, just getting the opportunity to hear from the developer side is what I'm most looking forward to. So
Thank you for sharing, Dana.
sure, thank you.
All right, John shared in the chat box, glad to hear you are recording and archiving the webinars. He may have a conflict next week, but is looking forward to future events. Excited about potential of TIF for rural housing and establishment of regional land banks too. Thanks, John. John, did you have your microphone open? Did you want to add anything? All right, okay. How about Jeff? Are you still on there?
You just had to unmute. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
No, I'd asked some questions and he answered. I think Sharon kind of responded back, and if we can look at doing the same thing that he has proposed for us to actually look at, going through NIFA or even through SCED, to actually be collecting all this information, because not all the information will work in every community, but if you had a list of all the things that are being performed and kind of as a guide, then I think that would be very, very helpful, just like it's very helpful for them.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Thank you. How about Marla? Are you still online?
On the phone. And I think for me, the biggest thing that I found interesting was the revolving loan for housing. I've not heard that before. We've talked about cooperative programs for housing, but not revolving loan funds for housing. So that's something I want to explore more.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone else on the list? I know I had a few people that were on my list and a few that weren't. So anybody else have any parting new exciting things that they heard today, or a new nugget of information that they would be willing to share with us?
This is Paul. You know, the comment that Mike made about communities being isolated, not sharing in experiences, that could apply to most any state in the Midwest, I believe. So it's kind of inspirational to see what they've done there in South Dakota, and just the fact that we know that it can be done means that we can probably replicate something like that here in Nebraska.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Paul. I think there's quite a lot of similarities between the states, and yeah, that's a great comment. Anybody else have any parting thoughts?
You know, I might just share an update. Our first webinar in February was about the Omaha Municipal Land Bank. We had Marty Barnhart on, and that legislation was rolled into LB 873. And just to let you all know, that did get through the legislature and is headed for the governor's office. So we're really excited about what implications that could have for our rural communities.
Awesome.
Kayla, this is Mike, and if I could just jump in and offer a couple of things. The first one, I just want to say thanks to Sharon, to Francis for letting us be a part of that experience coming down to Nebraska. It has had an impact. It had an impact on our state housing authority and the way that they're looking at some issues like appraisal gap problems. So it's just great to be stretching out into other places as well. And I should also throw out that I'm at this conference today, and a guy's asking about how to finance something with an investment club type product. And I was like, oh, hey, you got to talk to Miles. And so I gave him Sharon's and Miles' name. And so you may be hearing from some folks in Iowa about that. There's just so much that we can learn from each other. And what I love about the network the most is I think we tend to have people tell us that we've got to learn from people in maybe bigger cities or our state capitals, and that they have all the answers. Well, there's a heck of a lot of great things happening in our small towns, and we need to celebrate them and learn from each other and just keep just growing that, and never forget that we're pretty dang smart people out here too, and doing good stuff. So congratulations to you, and Sharon, thanks for letting us be a part of it.
Thank you, Mike. You're always welcome in Nebraska.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing more about the work you do, Mike, and the great work that South Dakota is doing in Dakota Resources. I definitely learned a lot today, and I hear from the group that there was definitely golden nuggets that people were taking away, or connections that they were making, and that's what this is all about, and that's so important. So Sharon, unless you have anything else, I think I'm going to turn it over to Francis for a final wrap up today.
Well, I just wanted to thank Mike again for joining us and doing an interview with you. It was really interesting to hear what's worked in South Dakota and how much of it that we're trying to kind of replicate and do the same thing here in Nebraska to help our communities. And thank you, Kayla, for facilitating. You're awesome. Just want to let everybody know to stay tuned for details on our next webinar, which is scheduled for May 17th. The topic that we'll be covering will be something, I think it was kind of a post-gathering call. So we want to let everybody know what they missed. If they weren't able to make it, it'd be a good time to, check in and see what you missed. We're going to try to share some of the documents and the ideas and the people that we met in that. Let's see. There's still time to register for the gathering. As we said, it's open for an extra 2 days. So if you're interested in that, please just let us know. You could either send me an email or just contact the office. We're also looking for ideas. So if you have any great ideas for future webinar topics, please email me, let me know what you think, or if you have anyone that you'd like to refer over to us that has some great content. We're always looking for that. So other than that, feel free to contact me with any other suggestions on anything else. So thank you for joining us. And Kayla, I think that's about it.
Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
See some of you next